Our lecture today. Okay. So do you see the PowerPoint, right?
Yes, you can see it.
Okay. So today we will have kind of general lectures about the ecology and the ecosystem. Okay, so this is kind of background information for you. Then you will be able to study or observe the Australia's ecosystem better with this information or with this lecture. Now, I believe most of you already take principles of biology or maybe introductions to biology, and you might learn a little bit about ecology and ecosystem. Today, we're gonna discuss more about this. So, what is ecology? Okay, ecology actually coming from Greek language. Okay, usually scientific term consists of two words that combine together, and each word has its own meaning, and then it will be combined. When it is combined, it will give you a new meaning or new definitions. Like ecology over here is actually consists of two words. The first word is called the oikos. Oikos mean house or home. And the other one is logi or logos. Okay, logi or logos mean science of or study of. Okay. When it is combined, then the meaning is actually the science of house or the science of home. Whose house or whose home is actually home or house of organism, which is the place where the organisms live. So basically, ecology is the study of the environment or the habitat where the organisms live, including on that ecology. You will study about relationship between that living organisms, between them, and also between the living organism with the non-living environment, like maybe temperature, soil, water, and etc. So that's basically ecology. So mostly the study that we will learn in Australia is a study of ecology. We're gonna learn about organisms. We're gonna learn about the place where they live, and we will try to observe the relationship between these organisms, and then also between organism and their environment, non-living environment. So this is the one that you will study in Australia. No, the ecology itself is actually kind of broad uh, science or studies. Therefore, it can be divided into many levels or branches. Some of them over here I listed, like for example, organismal ecology. So organismal ecology basically study about organisms, how the organisms adapt to their environment, how these organisms actually able to exist in their environments and then growing and then become develop into big or large populations. So this is organismal ecology. You will study this in Australia. Especially you might learn how, for example, koala adapted to their environment, what the koala eat to be able to live on that environment. Why koala, for example, eat the eucalyptus leaves. We're gonna study also, like for example, maybe the kangaroo, how the kangaroo adapted into the dry environment, into Australia habitats. So this is organismal ecology. So we're gonna study this a lot in Australia. The second one is called the population ecology. This is focused on the population growth, change of populations over time. We will not study this a lot in Australia because population ecology require times. Usually, for example, if you want to study population's growth, we need maybe years to study this ecology, is this type of ecology. We will study a little bit, but it's not that deep, okay, population ecology. So we maybe study the number of individuals within the population. We don't really study about their population size over time. Okay, we only spend about
Excuse me.
yes.
Jenna Adkins is texting me. She's having trouble getting into the meeting. Oh
Zoom.
wait, I think can you see? Is she on here? Maybe
I'm
she was
sorry.
able to.
Okay. Maybe some of you can because when I share the PowerPoint, I cannot see other
Jenna, are
activities.
you in here? She
Yes,
was texting me. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, sorry. Thank
See,
you.
she's here.
Yeah, she's here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I cannot see the other activities when the PowerPoint share, so I can only see the PowerPoint on my screen. Thank you very much. Okay, so anybody have question for these two type of ecology so far? The next one is community ecology. This is study of process that driving interaction between species. So we will study this also in Australia. Yeah, so we're gonna learn, for example, maybe some competition between animals, or maybe we're gonna study the prey and predations in Australia. Okay, like for example, dingo. Dingo is considered as the apex predator in Australia right now. So dingo is the biggest kind of predators in Australia. Even though they are not really big, but for Australia, they are the top predators right now. So we're going to study that also a little bit. Okay. And then, of course, we will study about ecosystem ecology, which is study organism and their environment. So we're going to visit several type of ecosystem. We're going to visit the outback, which is mostly desert ecosystem. We will also visit some tropical forests in Australia. So we mostly will spend in the northern eastern part of Australia that actually have a tropical forest. Even though we actually go Australia and you think that we're gonna be, run away from winter to summer place. In the northern part of Australia, it's actually they don't really have a winter time. They don't really have summertime. It's just like a tropical country. They have mostly warm weather. So therefore, we will also visit the tropical forest over there. And of course, we will also study about marine ecosystem. Okay, we're gonna study like for example, we're gonna snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef and try to study the ecosystem underwater over there. So yes, we're gonna study this ecosystem ecology also. Okay, so this type of ecology or level of ecology that we will study in Australia. Now, this is just a kind of a diagram that's showing you what is organism ecology. Like for example, over here, for the organism, usually we study the individual or organism adaptation to their habitats. So our focus mostly in individual or one type of organisms. And then when we expand that study, we will study what we call the populations. So over here, it will be consist of many organisms or many individuals within the same species. We study the population size, population growth, and etc. But again, in Australia, we will not be able to study this population ecology in deep because what? Because it need time, okay, to study the population growth. We only spend about 14 days over there, but we will study populations, maybe, the number of species, the number of individual within population, especially when we visit the beach in the tide pools. We're going to study the populations of maybe the starfish, the uh, Patrick, friends of SpongeBob. So we're going to study them. We're going to study, for example, sea urchins. We're going to try to calculate their abundance, etc. So we'll study population, but we will not really study their population growth. Okay? And then when we expand that from populations, we study different type of organisms within the same place. Then we study what we call the communities. When we study community, mostly we study about, like, for example, competitions. Like, for example, maybe between kangaroo with other herbivores in the area, how they compete one another. Or maybe within the member of the kangaroo populations, they will also have competitions for space, maybe, or for food, and for mating, for example, right? And also, when we study kangaroo with other organisms, maybe dingo or other organism, koala, then we're going to study how they interact one another. This is what we call the community level of ecology. So we study about communities. Now, when we study communities, sometimes we also measure the non-living parameters, like maybe the weather, rains, soils, wind, and etc. Therefore, when we adding the living organism with their non-living environment, our study is now called the ecosystem. As I mentioned before, we will visit several types of ecosystem. Ecosystem can be very small, like maybe a small pond. Is considered as one ecosystem, or maybe a really big or large ecosystem, like, for example, rainforest, or maybe desert. That's also ecosystem. So ecosystem can be small or maybe big ecosystem. And all ecosystem in the world is called biosphere. So bio mean living. What? Spheres mean space. Okay, so it means that space on Earth where we can find living organism, which is actually the combination of all ecosystem on Earth. They are called as a biosphere. So this is again the level study that we will uh, learned in Australia. Okay, mostly you're going to study organism, a little bit populations, then community, and then the ecosystem. Now, this is also important for you to understand difference between habitat and the niche. Habitat is very simple. It's actually defined as the place where organisms live. That's a habitat. It can be ecosystem. It can be a place like, for example, pond, or bigger place, or larger area where animal or plants live. This is called as a habitat. And then what is niche? Niche is actually the functions or the roles of organism within the habitats. Okay, so that's the niche. Like, for example, the kangaroo. Kangaroo live in, for example, in maybe savanna habitats, or grass area, or a desert habitat. What is their role? Their role usually to uh, consume the plants. So their role is as a herbivore. What we call them as a herbivore. Their function is herbivore, which is to consume or to feed on the producer. Okay. Now, within that needs functions, if we have, for example, two individuals, there will be no two individuals will have the same needs at the same time at the same habitat. Okay? Because what? Because if they do have the same needs, okay, in the same habitat, they will compete, they will fight. Okay, they will fight until one of them maybe die or one of them maybe run away from that habitat. So the needs is very specific. Yeah, it's very specific for individuals. Like for examples, my needs right now is as the teacher, and your needs is now is as students. Uh, so if someone, for example, right now, okay, my need is as a teacher. If someone, for example, enter into this Zoom meeting and claim to be the teacher, then I will fight him, okay? Because there are no two individuals will have the same needs at the same time. So I will fight him until maybe one of us leave the room, and then one of us will become the teacher or the instructor. Okay, so that's the difference between habitats and needs. Okay, that's the reason why, for example, if you see, let's say in one trees, let's say this is habitat, is considered as one habitat, you will see different birds that maybe live on that tree. And that bird will not have the same place on that tree at the same time. One of them may be on the top of the tree, the other one in the middle, the other one may be under the tree, the other one may be on the ground close to the tree. So they will not have, they will never have the same needs at the same time. I hope you can understand the difference between the habitat and these needs. Okay, so several organisms can be living at the same habitat, but they will not have the same needs at the same time. Okay, now based on this habitat and needs, then we will have two different type of species. uh, Two different type of species. The first one, we call it as a generalist. Generalist mean a species that can have wider needs and wider habitats. Basically, you can find them in different places, in different weather, in different conditions. Because what? Because they can live on at different environment. So they are very tolerant into different type of environments. Most likely, this individual will be abundant and will be dominant on their habitat. Very easy example is like a rat or mice. They are considered as generalist species. You can find rat or mice in many different type habitats. You can find them, for example, in the forest. You can find them in the desert. You can find them in the, for example, in the savannah. Even you can find them in our house, because they are very generalist type of species. The second type species is called the specialist. Mostly, the specialist species become what we call the local or endemic species. They only live in the certain or specific place, specific geographic area. They cannot find in other place because of this limitation. So they are very sensitive. Like for example, koala. Koala is a specialist species. Usually the one that limit the koala is their food. Okay, koala only feed, for example, on eucalyptus leaf. So mostly they will be found in the place that have the eucalyptus tree, like in Australia. Okay, another one, for example, panda. Okay, panda, they usually only live in the place that have the food for them, which is the bamboo trees in China and etc. Okay, so that special species, they usually live in a very specific place. Mostly they are become local or endemic species. Okay, so I hope you can easily distinguish these two types of generalis or specialis species. We will learn these organisms in Australia, so you should be able to really see which species in Australia is actually generalis, which one is specialis later, okay, when we observe or explore the Australia's ecosystem. Now, what is ecosystem? I talked a lot about ecosystem. What is ecosystem? Again, we mentioned that eco or oikos mean house. So system mean a system, which is when we talk about system, mostly it will have parts that interconnected. So inside the ecosystem, inside the house system, you will see parts. What are the parts of the ecosystem? Mostly the organisms. So organisms that live inside the ecosystem, they will interact one another. And then they will also interact with the non-living environment, including the energy, the materials, the food that they eat. Okay, that will be inside the ecosystem, and this part will be interacting one another. So this is what we call the system or the ecosystem. When we talk about natural ecosystem, then usually we're going to learn also the energy flow and the material cycle. So if you learn, energy will not be in cycle. Energy just flowing one way. For the Earth ecosystem, the energy is actually provided from the sunlight. So the sunlight will provide the energy for the Earth ecosystem, and this energy will be flowing, okay, from the sunlight into the plants. The plants will change this energy into chemical energy, which is the food, which is the food, like, for example, carbohydrates that will be eaten by the animals. And the animals will change these carbohydrates chemicals into another type of chemicals, like, for example, maybe proteins, the meat of that animals. And this animal will be eaten by other animals, bigger animals. The energy will be flowing, and some of them become heat, and the heat will be lost into the atmosphere, etc. So energy will not going back to the sun. Energy just flowing one way from the sun to this ecosystem, and finally it will be lost mostly as a heat in the ecosystem, in the atmosphere. That's the energy. But the food is a material, it will be cycles. So therefore, you might have about carbon cycles. You might have about the nitrogen cycle. You're gonna learn about you heard about the water cycle, etc. Why they are cycling? Because this material will actually not leaving the ecosystem. It will be stay inside the ecosystem, but they will be just cycling from one form to another form. So that's energy and the materials in the ecosystem, which will be interacting with the living organism. This is just examples of these cyclings of the materials inside the ecosystem. We call this as a food chain. So if you know, the producer will provide the food, mostly carbohydrates, into the herbivores, like insect over here, grasshopper, or maybe cattle, or maybe buffalo. Okay? And then these herbivores will eat that plant. And the plant is considered as a producer because this is the one that produces the food, convert the light energy into the food, will be eaten by the herbivore. Herbivore will be eaten with other animal. The animal that eat other animal is called the carnivore. So this is a niche or the roles of the animals as a carnivore, like a frog over here. And the frog will be eaten by other carnivore, called the secondary carnivore or secondary consumer, and then will be eaten by the top carnivore or the apex carnivore. All of them, okay, will die, and when we die, all these organisms die, it will be decomposed by other organisms, mostly fungi and bacteria. And then the materials like the nitrogen, sulfate, sulfurous, carbons will be released into the environment, then can be used by the producer again to produce the food. So this is the cycle of the materials within the ecosystem. Now, when we talk about ecosystem, there are two main type of ecosystem. The first one is called the terrestrial ecosystem. This is land ecosystem. So basically, this is land ecosystem. Terrestrial means land. And the second one's gonna be water ecosystem or aquatic ecosystem. For the terrestrial ecosystem on Earth, it is usually divided into 9 or 10 terrestrial biomes. So biomes is a type of land or terrestrial ecosystem. Basically, it will be divided based on the temperature and the precipitation or the available of water on that land. And the second ecosystem called the aquatic, which is water ecosystem. And for the water ecosystem, of course, we have two types of water. The first one is salt water. The second one is fresh water. So the saltwater ecosystem sometimes is called the marine ecosystem. For the freshwater ecosystem, it is called the freshwater ecosystem. That can be lentic. Lentic means water that is not flowing. So this is standing water ecosystem, like a lake, pond, for example. That's considered as a lentic aquatic ecosystem. And then the second type of freshwater ecosystem is called the lotic ecosystem. Lotic means running water or flowing water. This includes the river, streams, creek, springs, and etc. So this is the second type of freshwater ecosystem. We will study all of them in Australia. We will study some, of course, terrestrial ecosystems, some biomes in Australia. And then we will also study marine ecosystem and freshwater ecosystem in Australia. We even will study the combination between marine and freshwater. It's called the brackish water ecosystem. So brackish water means the water that is not too salty, but it is not fresh water. So it's called the brackish ecosystem, like mangrove area, estuarine. Many of them is called the brackish type of water. So their salinity is a little bit less than the salinity of the salt water or the ocean water. Now, this is the 10 terrestrial ecosystem or biomes or land ecosystem. And again, if you see this, okay, so the horizontal line over here is actually showing you the temperature. So these biomes will be divided or classified based on temperatures on that land, on that area. The second classification is based on the annual precipitation, whether it is wet or not wet on that land, on that area. So when we combine both of these, the temperature and precipitation, then we will have these 10 different biomes or land ecosystem on Earth. Now look at the right side over here. Yeah, so you see that temperature is around 30 degree. This is in Celsius. So 30 degree is maybe about 85, 90 Fahrenheit. So it's hot. Yeah, so it's hot over here. And then look, going up over it, it means that it's wet. It's a lot of precipitation. So maybe around 400 centimeter per year annual precipitation, which is really, really wet. So if we combine these two measurements, okay, the temperature and precipitation, then you're going to have the tropical rainforest on the top over here. What does that mean? It means that in this tropical rainforest, the weather will be hot. It's called the torrid or tropical zones. Okay. And the precipitations will be very high. It means that this area gonna be really wet. Therefore, what happened in this tropical area, we will find a lot of big trees because what trees like the warm temperatures and also, of course, they like water. So you're gonna have a lot of tropical rainforests, a lot of big trees, a lot of diversity in this area, right, which is in the torrid zone with high precipitation. Now, if we're going down with the less precipitation, still in the torrid or tropical area, a hot area, then we have what we call the tropical seasonal forest. So this forest, okay, very similar with the tropical forest, but with less water on it. And what happens, it will have the plant or the tree that during the dry season, they usually uh, will make their leaf fall, just like in here, but it's not all of them. So mostly the leaf on these trees and the tropical seasonal forest during dry season will be less compared to during the wet seasons. So that's the tropical seasonal forest. And then when going down, if less water, what happened? We're gonna have area that still have trees, but the trees will be shorter. Because what? Because they're gonna get less water. They will not growing higher. They will not growing bigger. It's gonna be smaller and shorter. Over here, we will have the what we call the tropical thorn shrub and woodlands area. So smaller tree, okay, shorter tree. And then if we're going down with less, very, very less water, it means that less rain. What happened? In a hot area, you're gonna have desert. So desert mostly in the, in this area will be very hot with very less precipitation or less water. So this is in the torrid or tropical zone. Now, when we go to the left side over here, we're going to have what we call the temperate zone, which is the temperature between 0 to 20 degree. So between 0, over here, maybe between 32 to maybe around 55 Fahrenheit degree. So what happened over here, just like most of the United States will be temperate zone. Eh? If you're going up, of course, it means that a lot of precipitation. Then we will have the temperate rainforest. So it's going to be the same like a tropical rainforest. The tree going to be bigger, taller, but they are located in the temperate zone. In America, we might see this a lot in the western part of United States, like in Washington State, Portland. So they have Oregon. So they have a lot of big tree, which is the temperate rainforest. If you know, the main place for what you call the log, the tree is actually coming from Seattle, Washington State, and Oregon. So they have a lot of lumber area over there because what? Because they have temperate rainforest. Now, when going down, okay, now the rain is less, but still in the temperate zones, we're gonna have biome is called the temperate forest, or sometimes we know this as deciduous forest. So this is the one that mostly we have here in Kentucky. We have deciduous temperate forest. This is the type of forest where during the winter time they will not have the leaf, right? So they have fall. Right now we are in the fall time, the fall season, when the tree will not have leaf because what? Because this is type of temperate forest or deciduous forest. Now, if it is less water, less precipitation in the temperate zone, then we will have what we call the savanna, or in United States maybe called the prairie, mostly a little bit tree with most of the higher grasses. That's the prairie or the savanna. And then, of course, if there is no rain, very, very little rain in temperate zones, the biome's going to be called the same. In the tropical, it's called the desert. So we have desert in Arizona, for example, because what? Because it is in the temperate zones without or with less precipitation. And then going left a little bit, we will have, if the we go north, for example, from United States, then we'll see what we call the taiga or boreal forest. This one is colder area, and most of the tree that live over here will be conifer tree, like pine tree. And this forest is called the taiga or boreal forest. With less precipitation, then we might find grassland. So a lot of grassland in northern part of United States where the animal, the bison usually live. They live in the grassland area. If it is very low water, of course, we're gonna have also the desert in this lower temperature place. So if you count how many, it's nine biome already. Tropical rainforest, tropical seasonal forest, tropical thorn shrub, desert, temperate rainforest, deciduous temperate forest, savanna, grassland, and boreal forest. Right? That's nine biomes. The last biome is actually only present in a very frigid place. So lower than is in the frigid zone area. So the temperature always lower than uh, 0 Celsius or lower than 32 degree every day. So like, for example, in the northern area, in the poles, you're going to have what we call the tundra biomes. Mostly it's going to be very small shrub type of tree and mosses that live in this area. There will be no tall or big tree in this place because uh, the weather, the soil will not be able to support that big tree. So these are the 10 terrestrial biomes. In Australia, there are maybe 4 type of biomes that we will see and we will visit. Okay. Okay, look over here. So this is the biomes of the world. If we just focus in Australia, you're gonna see that maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 different biomes in Australia continents. Okay? Tropical rainforest, mostly on the middle part over here, like Indonesia, Malaysia, Africa, Brazil, South America. That mostly tropical rainforest. But if you see Australia on the northern part, there also actually it has rainforest, okay, tropical rainforest. If it is under it, you're going down south a little bit, that you have the temperate rainforest. Mostly you're gonna have desert, which is called in Australia. It has special name. It's called the outback. So outback mean actually desert in Australia. So we also have some savanna a little bit on the north part. And chaparral. Chaparral is also known as a shrub land in the uh, colder place. Okay, so these are the about 4 or 5 different biomes in Australia. Again, mostly we will stay in the southern, northern part of Australia. We're gonna have some, of course, outback. We're gonna have some of the tropical and also temperate rainforests in Australia that we will observe. This is just a list, some of the biome like desert, mostly hot or maybe cold. But the main character of desert is no water or less precipitation. That's actually desert. So desert can be in the tropical area, maybe in the temperate area. They are also desert in the colder place. So mostly because of no rain or very less rain. Okay. This is just a picture that I'm taken from the Tropica, Costa Rica. So I visited Costa Rica last summer. I spent about 1 month in this tropical rainforest in Costa Rica. It was a very nice study abroad. We actually live with homestay. So we live with, a villager. We live with them, stay with them for 1 month. This is how savanna look like. So you still have some trees, but this tree is very kind of small and very rare. And between the tree, you're gonna see a lot of grasses. Usually, it is in Africa. This is the place where you can find a lot of herbivores and also predators like lions and etc. Okay, this is desert, so we're gonna visit the outback, the desert area. Uh, this is shrub forest or chaparral. This is mostly on the southern part, southern west part of Australia. This is bison, mostly live in the grassland. This is in America. Of course, there is no bisons in Australia. Why? We're going to learn that on our next lecture meeting on Tuesday next week. This is temperate forest. This is the type of forest that we see a lot in Kentucky. So this is also known as deciduous forest. This is taiga, northern part of Kentucky, between Kentucky and Canada. Canada have a lot of this taiga, or this is coniferous. Sometimes it's also known as boreal forest or coniferous forest. Okay, so mostly the characteristic of this biome, they have a lot of conifer pine trees. So pine trees, conifer, they are actually evergreen tree that they keep their leaf even during winter time. This is tundra, so this is a very cold, freezing place. You still have to see some small trees or plants that live in this area. Now, for the marine ecosystem, we're gonna learn benthic. Benthic means the bottom of the ocean or the sea. So this is what we call the benthic. And the pelagic is actually the open place or the open water of the ocean itself. That's what we call the pelagic. Maybe if you see this picture, you're going to see the difference between the benthic and pelagic. So benthic means here, so the bottom part of the ocean or the sea is called the benthic. So we're going to see a lot of maybe organisms that live on the bottom of the sea. The pelagic is the open water. This is what we call the pelagic zones. It can be divided into 4 or 5 different layers. The top layer is called the epipelagic zones. So epipelagic means the layer that has a lot of light. So it's gonna be bright because the light can enter into this area, and this is actually the most richness area in the ocean because there will be a lot of algae. Yeah? Algae is the producers for the aquatic ecosystem. Because there are a lot of algae, then you're gonna see a lot of plankton, zooplankton. We're gonna see a lot of fish that eat the plankton, and then also bigger fish. But if we go down, we're gonna see the mesopelagic zone. This is kind of a little bit darker area. Bathypelagic is dark area. Abyssal is completely dark area until what we call the hadal zones. So mostly animal that live over here is what we call the scavengers. They just waiting for the food that coming from the top, and that's drown or sinks into the bottom place. So going to be less organism that live in the abyssals and hadal zones, but there are still some fish or some organism that live in this area. Mostly they are the one that waiting food from the top, and it's called the scavengers. Now, this is some of the bottom of the deep ocean. We're gonna see some microorganisms mostly that live in this area. This is coral reef, so we're gonna visit several of coral reef in Australia. One of them is going to be Great Barrier Reef. Over here, we should be able to see a lot of beautiful fish and corals, animals. So a lot of coral animals that live on the corals. They have a very beautiful colors: blue, red, yellow, green. So we're gonna snorkeling and try to observe their beauty. This is a tidal pool. So mostly if we visit the beach, we might have some place that during the high tide is actually covered by water. But during the low tide, they are not covered by water. So during the low tide, we should be able to see several uh, organisms, mostly animals. This is invertebrates like sea stars, maybe sea urchins, also the Bristol stars. We're gonna learn that. Okay, if we there, I hope we will find different type of sea stars, different type of Bristol star, sea urchin. We're gonna try also measure their populations. We will count their abundance with our kind of little experiments on that place. This is mangrove. I mentioned before, mangrove mostly area where the water is not that salty, but it's not fresh also. So this is between fresh and salty, and the water is called the brackish water. So brackish water. Mostly the the plants that live over here will be the plants that have the roots over the water because during the high tide, sometimes this area is covered by water. But during low tide, it's not covered by water. So they have type of roots that able to go out from the water. You're gonna also observe that they have a special seed that look like a what you call a torpedo, like bullets. When it is fall down into the soil over here, which is mostly mud, then it's gonna be growing. It will not, it's not floating on the water, but it's gonna be just go deep into the soil, into the mud. You might be also to see some type of animals that able to walk, kind of fish, it's called the mud skipper, that able to walk on that mud here over here. So the male is very nice. Actually, they have the dorsal fin that can be opened, okay, like a boat, and then if they fight, you're gonna see they're fighting very fiercely, actually. So I observe many of this when I'm still in Indonesia. Because we have a lot of mangrove area, so gonna maybe visit this mangrove place in Australia also, learns about this plant, the tree, and also some animal that live here. This is estuaries, which is the area where the freshwater and the saltwater meet. Most of them is still salty. Therefore, it's called the salt marshes or estuaries. Okay, mostly the water kind of salty, but the plants that live over here mostly tall grasses. This is estuaries or marshes. Now, freshwater ecosystem, as mentioned before, it's going to be consist of two types, whether lentic or lotic ecosystem. Lake, it is a type of lentic ecosystem. It's going to be very similar with the marine ecosystem. You're going to have open water, but it's not called the pelagic. It's called the limnion. So epilimnion, not epipelagic. And there are thermocline, hypolimnion, and this is benthos. Benthos is the bottom of the lake. So you're gonna see maybe there are several maybe organisms that live in this mud under the lake. The littoral zone is the place where sometime during the wet season they are covered by water, but during dry season it is dry. So this is what we call the littoral zone. It will be place for several type of grasses that live uh, in this place. Okay, so we're gonna maybe learn some of them in Australia if we're able to visit some maybe lake in over there. Okay, now another freshwater ecosystem is swamp. This is a still lentic ecosystem. So what is swamp? Swamp is actually the place that it is wet, but between this wet and we see this kind of water ecosystem, we have many big trees. So in Louisiana, for example, there are many swamp ecosystem. Marshes, this is again the area that before entering into the ocean. Over here, if it is just called marshes, mean mostly fresh water. If it is closer to the ocean, it's going to be called the salt marshes because the water will be salty. Bogs is another type of lentic ecosystem, freshwater ecosystem. Uh, this is actually the water over here is saturated. It means that it's really wet. Under this water, sometimes there is a plant uh, that actually, if we walk on this place, you kind of wobbling because that plant is actually kind of floating in on the water, but we still be able to walk on that ground. So the ground is actually kind of moving or shaking because they are actually not uh, attached to the lower ground of this area. So I have visited some bogs in Indonesia also. So it's a nice place. It's, kind of when we walk over there, we're gonna be kind of afraid if it is going kind of down, sinking or not. Okay? Because you can feel it, the wobbling of that ground. Maybe we don't see this in the Australia. Okay. Now streams and river, this is type of lotic ecosystem. Okay. Uh, Stream, it is formed, or river, it is formed usually on the area when the precipitation is too high and the evaporation is less. It means that the water is actually already have a lot of, the soil already have a lot of water. The extra water will be then flowing into small flowing area. Okay, so it's become creek, and then creek combines, become a bigger creek, and finally combine into river and a bigger rivers. So this is the lotic or flowing water ecosystem, freshwater ecosystem. Now, every ecosystem they are actually growing. It's called the ecological successions. There are two types of successions. Primary successions. This is coming from the bare lands, the land that don't have plants, like maybe from the rock. After several years, when the rock received the water, it's become a little bit softer, and then some type of plants able to growing on that place. And then when the small plant growing, the bigger plants will be coming, and etc., and become the climax ecosystem. So if it is coming from bare land, from the rock like that, it's called the primary successions. Maybe after, for example, the volcano eruption, sometimes the land is just bare land, just a rock. But maybe after 10 years, 20 years, it can be growing into a maybe forest, a small forest. Secondary successions, this is succession that develop after disturbances on that forest. For example, after the fire on the forest, most of the bigger tree will be gone. Okay, but there are still some smaller tree, there are still some seed under the ground. It can be growing back into climax community. So if it is happening like that, that succession is called the secondary succession. It is not from the bare land, but it is from the area that is disturbed a little bit, and then it's growing back to the forest ecosystem. So this is just illustrations. If it is coming from the exposed rock like this one, bare land is going over time, it's become forest like this. This succession is called the primary successions. But if it is just start from this climax and then there is a fire that burned the forest and then the forest going back over time, that succession is called the secondary succession. So this is how the forest or the ecosystem actually growing from maybe non the barren ecosystem or from some disturbance. Okay, so this is just showing us the rainforest ecological functions. This is primary productivity area. They are also nutrient cycles, so carbon cycles, water cycles, nitrogen cycles, mostly will be cycling by this rainforest. Rainforest or the forest is also very important as a carbon sinks. So if there's too much carbon dioxide produced by industry, if we still have forests, some of them will be absorbed by the forest. It's reduce the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere. It's reducing the greenhouse gas. It's reducing the global warming. But if we don't have forest, what happens? The carbon dioxide concentrations will be increased. Then what happens? The green gas increase, the global warming increase, the temperature will be also increased. So this is some important of roles of the rainforest. And rainforest is also home for many animals. A lot of wild animals live in the forest. Yeah, I think we have learned this a little bit, the biomes. Now the biodiversity, we're gonna learn this biodiversity on Tuesday, especially when we talk about Australia. So basically biodiversity means the number of species within the habitat, within the area. So this is just illustration over here. Most of the species is actually insects. So insects, more than half of the species of organism in the world is actually insect. 750,000 species of insect. Insect is a part of animal, so they are animal. And then the second abundance may be like animals itself, about 280,000 species. And then plant, there are 270,000. Protists, so protists is actually organism that really difficult to distinguish whether this is animal or plants. Therefore, protists divided into two types, algae and protozoa. So algae mean protists that have plant characteristic. The protozoa is protists that have animal characteristic. You have the PowerPoint on this protist, one of the PowerPoint is talk about the protist diversity. Fungi, there are several types of fungi. There are 60,000 species of fungi. Bacteria, archaea, about 5,000 species. So again, this is just showing us the diversity of species, which is dominated by insects and animals over here, and then plants and protists, fungi. Okay. Again, please study this diversity with the PowerPoint. For the Australia biodiversity, this is just an introduction before we really talk about this next Tuesday. So a lot of fish in the coral reef. There are many different type of fish. You're gonna see Nemo, okay, the clownfish. We're gonna see also Dory, the surgeon fish. We might be able to see some other beautiful fish in this coral reef. And then birds, there are maybe 700 species type of birds in Australia. Many of them are endemic, and many endemic birds in Australia actually do not have, cannot fly. They are flightless. We're going to learn why many of these animal or this bird are flightless in Australia, but not in other continents. Okay? And then reptiles, snake, and there are two crocodiles. That's very different in Australia, which is freshwater and saltwater crocodiles. Uh, we're going to learn that, but we don't really maybe, I don't know whether we're going to visit these crocodiles or not. We're going to see maybe in the Douglas rest area, in the wildlife place, you might find that, maybe not. I'm not sure because I haven't been there. But again, the reptiles in Australia, they have several types that's considered, many people say it's dangerous, like a snake, crocodiles, and also the that's one is invertebrate, like for example the jellyfish. So they have a kind of dangerous jellyfish in Australia. We might learn them also. And then mammals, it's very unique in Australia because about 50% of mammals in Australia is actually marsupials. Marsupials is a type of mammals that give birth, but the baby is actually not developed yet. So that baby have to develop outside the mother's wombs. So they're gonna be living in the mother pouch. So the mother usually have pouch that able to carry this growing baby. So that's a marsupial. So 50% mammals in Australia is a marsupial. We're gonna also see the platypus maybe. Okay, this is a type of monotremes. This is an animal that actually lay eggs. Okay, so mostly animal mammalia they give birth, but this one they lay egg. Okay, so that's the mammals of Australia. Mostly they are marsupial. We're gonna learn this on Tuesday. Okay, I think that's all. Okay, if you have questions, so we spend about 1 hour and 10 minutes. Anybody have question? I'm gonna stop sharing here. Morgan, do you
This
have
is
question?
this
No?
is on This isn't necessarily like a I'm confused question. It's more of a
Hmm?
curiosity question, but most
Yes.
professors have a specific group of animals, at least that they choose to study or focus on. Do you have a
Mhm.
preference?
Yes. So because we are mostly will be in the marsupial area, then we will mostly visit the place that have a lot of marsupials like kangaroo and koala. So this study is a landscape. So we're gonna study all of them. It's not really
I
specific
was more
one.
asking about you personally, like if you,
Mhm. Yeah. So in our pre-assignments, I'm asking you to choose one organism, maybe plants or animals over there. So you can write, you can choose one of them. Okay, based on that preference, I'm gonna see which one is actually more you have more interest on it. But basically, we're gonna mostly study marsupials, and we will visit the eucalyptus forest. So this is kind of two maybe type organism, one plant, one animal that we will focus more. We will not focus on snake or something. we will not we will not focus on crocodile, but mostly we will focus on marsupials. Okay, so kangaroo. So there are several type of kangaroo actually that live in Australia. We might focus on that. Okay.
oh, and then for
Mm-hmm.
the exams, are
Mm-hmm.
do you do multiple choice, written answer combination?
Yes. So the questions will be all type of questions. So there will
Okay.
be multiple choices. There will be kind of true and false. And then maybe essay at the end, but the
All right.
essays, yeah, so different type of question over there. So make sure that some, because some students say that I like multiple choice, I like true and false, and we try to put all of them, but mostly multiple choice will be there, right?
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, just because honestly, studying is different depending on the type of question sometimes.
Yeah, 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 we'll have some different type of questions.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, anybody have question? Morgan, you don't have question? No? How about Miranda?
No, I'm good. Thanks, though.
Okay. Edison?
Oh, no. No, thank you.
Zach already asked question, right? uh, Jenna?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. How about Emma? Okay. So again, Zach, on Tuesday, we're going to focus on spatial landscape of Australia, including organisms that live in Australia. So biodiversity of Australia. From there, then we can see, or you can see, which organism will be focused more. Okay. Okay. If there is no more question, then I will see you on Tuesday. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.